Tonight, the latest on a daytime shooting in Regent Park that left 2 men dead and 1 woman in hospital.
The mom was bleeding and she said, "Help, call 911, call 911.
A family member is now charged in their deaths. We'll have more on how the Regent Park community is responding. Plus,
and all of a sudden we hear bang, boom, and cars just been flying.
Ontario's police watchdog is now investigating a crash in Scarborough involving an allegedly stolen vehicle that left 1 man dead and another badly injured. And
with climate change, you have the ticks being able to survive more northern climate.
These warmer temperatures could make for an earlier tick season. We'll break down how you can protect yourselves and your pets. Good evening. We're learning more about what happened during a shooting in Regent Park yesterday that left 2 men dead and a woman in hospital. Toronto police saying the man they've charged is related to all of the victims. Dale Manukduk has the latest.
I heard everything. I heard the gunshot. I heard like someone falling on the floor.
Hani Afra is still traumatized from what happened yesterday. She lives 2 doors down from where the incident first began around 1:30 in the afternoon.
When I heard the gunshot, I came out and then the mom was bleeding and she said, "Help, call 911, call 911. And then one mom called 911 and then she said, "My child is in there, my child is in there." And then I looked through the window and then I see the child crying. And then I was so scared.
Afra ended up running into the home, ultimately taking care of the child for the evening. Around the corner, 1 man was gunned down in broad daylight along Dundas Street. Another man and a woman were found in the house and taken to hospital where that man was pronounced deceased. The woman suffered serious injuries but is expected to recover. Police say they are all related.
The dad passed away, the son passed away, the other son is in jail.
Police would not confirm those are the exact relationships. They did announce today that 23-year-old Benedict Johnson Kongolo has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Meanwhile, local Congolese officials say the accused and victims are all part of the same family.
I know the families, and what I learned progressively was that one of the child in the family did shoot on the father and did shoot on the brother, also on the mother.
The father was a friend. We spoke often. I've known him for a long time. I also know his kids.
In 2023, we had 0 gun-related deaths.
This community leader says he's in touch with another son of the family who is being supported through it all.
Came here and was completely traumatized by seeing so many police officers and not knowing. I don't wish this on anyone.
The mother is also receiving supports. We know that the Congolese community of the GTA visited her in hospital today. As for Benedict Kongolo, he did appear in bail court today, and police are still looking to speak to anyone with information. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A candlelight vigil was held outside a school in North York tonight in honor of a teacher who was allegedly murdered by her husband last week.
Oh, I remember her smile, her quietness, her helpfulness.
A person that have served so much and give so much for kids in our community, this is not the way it should have been.
64-year-old Estella Wheeler was found dead in her home in Vaughan last Wednesday. Her 68-year-old husband was arrested at the scene and later charged with second-degree murder. Wheeler taught grades 7 and 8 at Afrocentric Alternative School for more than 7 years. In a letter to parents, the school's principal described her as a dedicated team member and an incredibly kind and giving person. In Scarborough, 1 person is dead and another in hospital after a violent crash involving multiple vehicles early this morning on Markham Road. The SIU is investigating because, as Greg Ross tells us, police attempted to pull over one of the vehicles just moments before the crash.
I haven't seen an accident like this before.
This man was lucky to come away from this horrific crash unscathed. His car was stopped at a red light this morning on Markham Road and Milner Avenue.
The guy was flying, and all of a sudden we hear bang, boom, and cars just been flying.
He says this Mercedes SUV that we have since learned was stolen came speeding through the lights in the southbound lanes and was hit by another car that was going through the intersection. The Mercedes then rolled into oncoming traffic.
The guy that flipped over ran a red coming south, and the guy was just trying to make a left-hand turn and just creamed him.
The driver of the Mercedes was taken to hospital, where he later died. Another man who was behind the wheel of this van suffered serious injuries.
The driver of a Honda Odyssey was taken to hospital, and that man is in critical life-threatening condition.
The SIU has now taken over this investigation. Not only was the Mercedes stolen, police attempted to pull the driver over just moments before the crash.
The initial information I have is that there were 2 cruisers that may have been involved at the early stages, and then it ended here.
SIU spokesperson Christy Dennett says when officers tried to pull over the Mercedes, the driver took off at a high rate of speed. Part of the SIU's investigation will be to determine whether or not the officers who originally pulled over the Mercedes SUV then gave pursuit once the driver fled.
They're really not supposed to pursue because it can lead to dangerous things, right? But it's believed that there was no pursuit. It was kind of an initial stopping, and then the driver fled at a high speed.
According to Peel Regional Police, the Mercedes SUV was stolen just hours before the crash in connection to a home invasion in Brampton that is now being investigated separately. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Peel Regional Police say they've arrested a man in connection with a series of sexual assaults dating back to the 1990s. A 64-year-old British Columbia man has been charged, but the historical incidents took place across southern Ontario. Tyler Cheese has the story.
This is a composite sketch of the Woodland rapist, a man police have been looking for around 3 decades. And though they haven't confirmed a connection to that case, Peel Police confirmed today they have laid 20 criminal charges in an investigation dubbed Project Woodland.
We've arrested a male from British Columbia named Richard Neal. He was arrested and charged after a multi-jurisdictional investigation. Peel Police, Halton Regional Police, and Waterloo Police worked together.
Police say Neal has been charged with sexual assaults that occurred in Ontario between 1992 and 1995. They didn't share any additional information, saying a publication ban is in place to protect the victims. But court documents obtained by CBC News today confirm the charges include kidnapping and sexually assaulting a boy in Kitchener in August 1992, another boy in Brampton in September 1994, and a 15-year-old girl in Oakville in August 1995. Those dates line up with what CBC News has previously reported about the Woodland rapist case.
It's been over 30 years since this case has been open to close. It's fair to say that there could be many reasons as to why the arrest has happened.
Police would also not share what new information led to the arrest, but it comes at a time when advancements in DNA forensics are helping to solve cold cases like this one.
The way they would have approached this back then is you collect DNA from a crime scene, or in this case, a sexual assault victim, and that's a profile that's of unknown origin.
DNA researchers say it's becoming more and more common for decades-old cases to be solved as new technology is developed.
We're able to get more information from less DNA to the point now where we can literally sequence the entire human genome if need be. So police agencies, investigative agencies are realizing this is a brand new tool and it's incredibly powerful.
For the case at hand, police believe there may be more victims and are urging anyone with more information to contact them. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, if you were outside today, you probably noticed the beautiful weather. Naturally, people want to enjoy that, but experts are warning that these milder temperatures could bring tick season back sooner. Patrick Swannen has more on how to protect yourself.
Only mid-March, but things are already heating up in Toronto. Temperatures reaching into the high teens today. And what did Torontonians think of this?
Well, I think it's beautiful. Like, you know, spring isn't usually this hot, so I'm just glad.
We're gonna go to the zoo. The weather is very good. It's very hot.
But not so fast. With great weather comes great responsibility, including being on the lookout for ticks. Experts saying they're back earlier than expected.
With climate change, you have the ticks being able to survive more northern climates.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Anna Banerjee says ticks can carry a number of diseases, but
the number one disease in Canada is really Lyme disease,
which is spread by the black-legged tick and can cause fever, body aches, rash, and even cardiac symptoms.
It can be very serious, but it's also very easy to prevent if you're thinking about it.
She says it takes 24 to 48 hours once bitten for Lyme to actually be transmitted, a window of opportunity to check and de-tick yourself after a hike. Antibiotics will typically treat Lyme disease, but if you do head into the woods, wear insecticide, long sleeves, and tuck your pants into your socks. Unfortunately, not an option for our four-legged friends.
Definitely concerns me because dogs are the exact animal to collect them.
And these dog owners are noticing more and more in the city.
You run the risk, take them on a hike or something like that, but it's not a good sign when it's down by the water in downtown Toronto.
We've had to start our tick medication earlier this year, and actually most of our vets are telling us to start them or have them all year round.
And that's something this vet agrees with.
Ticks don't die off in the winter. They're alive under the snow, even when it's cold.
And above 0 degrees, they start looking for a host. Bainbridge started testing dogs a little over 5 years ago at his clinic.
I've got well over 120 dogs in downtown Toronto that have tested positive for Lyme disease.
Dr. Bainbridge says get the 40X blood test done for your dog once a year and get them on a topical or chewable preventative all year round. And if you do find a tick on your dog's skin, remember, it takes about 24 hours for them to transmit any disease. So find that tick and send it packing. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
And here's a live look at our city tonight. Mainly clear, sitting at around 9 degrees after that unusually warm March day. Victor Paulo joins us now with the first look at the forecast. Victor?
Well, Talia, it was a perfect day today indeed. You know, some will even say it was a summer in March, but we're expecting that rain to pass by on Thursday, not to dampen anyone's mood. And it's going to be quite the cloudy weekend, which will be accompanied by some flurries on Sunday. Well, it's going to be a mild start to our Thursday, but we do know we're anticipating some rain to fall. But the majority of that rain will be coming after lunch, closer to 2 o'clock. And the amount of rain that'll be falling, well, it's going to be less than 5 millimeters by the time it's 6 o'clock. And by the time we start our day on Friday, the good news is it'll definitely be less than 10 millimeters. Now, quick look at our 3-day forecast. We can note that it will be that wet Thursday with a high 12 degrees, low of 5. And we're expecting Friday to be a day where it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud, but the temperatures will be consistently dropping as our cloudy Saturday will be a high of 9 and a low of 1. Well, Talia, make sure everyone stays tuned to see what else is in store for your weekend and to see what's happening with those flurries on Sunday. Over to you.
Thanks, Victor. Toronto wants to make it easier for you to complain about city services. It's launched a new pilot to streamline the complaint system through 311. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has the details.
Maybe you can't get that annoying pothole down the street fixed. Or your broken green bin lid needs to be repaired. You might need help dealing with one of the city's unofficial mascots. In all of those instances, Toronto wants to change the way you complain about city services, and a new pilot program aims to simplify the process.
One of the challenges, where do they go? Which division do they go to? Do they go to a division head?
Last year, 311 Toronto received 1.3 million contacts. Just under 500,000 of those were requests for service. So that puts this call center here at Metro Hall on the front line of responding to complaints from Toronto residents. Right now, if you call 311 with a complaint, the city's 44 divisions have their own way of handling it. Some divisions have multiple complaint systems.
It's now built with the residents in mind. So instead of 49 different unique nuances and ways of interacting with each division, there'll be one way, one City of Toronto.
Councillor Brad Bradford says the current system is in desperate need of change. It's frustrating for residents who often turn to their local councillor for help.
For most folks, it's as simple as when they pick up the phone to 311 and they place that complaint, they just want to see it resolved. That's all they're looking for. They shouldn't have to come to my office or another councillor's office to get that taken care of.
And he's no fan of the duplication of complaint systems.
Divisional silos are a very real thing. It often feels like an intractable problem. And, you know, frankly, we need to do a better job of having people work across divisions, recognizing that there is only one taxpayer, that Torontonians are just looking for service and they don't really care where it's coming from.
A new committee at City Hall will dig into the pilot next week. Councillor Stephen Holliday leads that group.
The organization itself can learn right from the types of issues that people are complaining about. They expose areas for improvement or where there's gaps in the process or maybe even gaps in the resources that people are asking for.
The pilot program started last month with 6 city divisions. It will expand to include more throughout the year. Sean Jeffords, CBC News.
Welcome back. Ottawa's landfill could be full in less than a decade, and councillors are still working out what to do next. One option, burning household trash to create energy, which is a method that's used in Durham Region. But not everyone likes the idea. Elise Skura explains.
This is what 2,200 tons of trash looks like. Pile upon pile of black bags, or what people in Durham now call fuel.
We receive garbage from 7 in the morning to 7 p.m., but we operate the plant 24/7. So somebody is always operating out of this chair, preparing the fuel for combustion and feeding the boilers.
All of the trash collected from homes in the Durham region is brought here, along with 30% of what's produced in York. When it's burned, the heat turns water into steam, which causes the turbines to spin and create energy.
We produce about 13 to 14 megawatts to the grid. The plant consumes another 1 to 2 megawatts for its processes. And that's enough to power about 10,000 homes.
The Durham York Energy Center has a series of filters to remove toxins before they're released. It doesn't catch everything, but what ends up passing through the smokestack is within allowable limits.
I don't think there's anything to worry about, right? I live in the community. I work here. I spend 8+ hours a day here on site, and I'm not worried.
While most of the emissions are monitored in real time, not everything is, including cancer-causing chemicals.
So those stack tests happen twice a year, okay, over a few hours.
Too much uncertainty for some.
Incineration is bad for the environment. It's bad for climate change. It's bad for taxpayers. It's very costly.
Building a facility like the one owned by Durham Region and run by private company Covanta could cost Ottawa close to $500 million. Costly? Yes. But so are the other options, including another landfill, which could cost almost as much.
It is very similar to landfilling. They are very expensive, so hence really important community assets, because we know no matter what, we're going to be generating waste. And as Ottawa continues to grow, we need to make sure we have a means to deal with that.
Even if Ottawa goes with an incinerator, Hoover B&Esch says landfilling will not be a thing of the past. Burning trash creates ash that must be properly disposed of, meaning it doesn't just disappear. But some experts worry that's exactly what people will think.
If, Ottawans are told, well, don't worry about your waste because we've got this incinerator and it's going to just take all of this waste. And in fact, we need waste in order to keep this incinerator or waste energy facility running, then there's very little to no incentive at all to reduce the amount that we are consuming.
Wet trash cannot be burned, making it important for residents to keep separating their organics. Ottawa staff have estimated that 180,000 tons of non-recyclables will need to be burned each year. If the trucks start bringing in less, they may need to harvest garbage from the dump to burn, or bring in trash from elsewhere. Of course, there is another option, trucking Ottawa's trash across the river to a Quebec community that's banking on building an incinerator far bigger than what they need.
For social acceptability, it could be difficult to find a part of Ottawa who would like to have an incinerator built, whereas we want this.
Balancing the needs of the future with the politics of today is not easy. Ottawa City staff still have a lot to consider, and not just the cost. They're also comparing the emissions from an incinerator, trucking trash across the borders, and creating a new landfill. If councillors decide yes on burning garbage, they face about a decade of work before a facility can open, all while garbage here keeps stacking up. Elise Skura, CBC News, Ottawa.
Time for a look at your extended forecast with Victor Paulo. And Victor, I'm guessing this mild weather won't be sticking around too much longer.
Well, Talia, looking at some trends when it comes to our daily highs between now and Sunday, we're going to be seeing that things will start to cool down when it comes to Toronto. Now we see that we're still going to be in single digits once we reach Saturday, and the single digit trend will continue once we reach Sunday and Monday, of course. Now, a big factor to that will be the wind. We can see the wind right now is coming from the northwest, and of course we do know that what's north of us is a lot of colder air, and that's the big reason why we're going to be seeing that day go from a 12-degree Thursday to almost a 10-degree, almost 9-degree Friday. Now, here's what we're looking at when it comes to a long-range look at what's happening with that rain. Around 2 o'clock on Thursday, we're going to be expecting a lot of the precipitation to be falling over the GTA. But as we do get closer to your commute home, that's when will be a lot in the thick of the precipitation. Your overnight is going to be quite cloudy, which will also be a cloudy start to your day on Friday. But Friday is going to be a day where it's going to be a mix of sun and cloud, which will eventually lead to a Saturday, which will be even more cloudy. Now, looking at how it's going to be affecting your day-to-day here in Toronto when it comes to that rainfall, we can see that most of the start of your day is going to be just pretty cloudy and quite clear. But that rain will be starting closer to when you are heading home. So you want to make sure you do pack an umbrella, because nothing worse than getting caught in that rain. Now we're looking at our 3 and 5 day forecast. We can see that it's going to be a wet Thursday, accompanied by a mix of sun and cloud on Friday. Now Saturday is going to be quite the cloudy day, and as we get closer to Sunday, we notice that there will be a bit of flurries that'll be falling close to the end of the day. Those cold temperatures start to trend as we begin our Monday, but the good news is, well, we had a beautiful day today. Can't get it all, but at least we got ourselves quite the great start to our March break. But as we do start our weekend, it will be getting cloudy and the temperatures will be dropping. Well, hope you all have yourselves a fantastic night, and over to you, Talia.
Thanks, Victor. Finally tonight, a desert park in Southern California is seeing a spectacular spring bloom.
We are familiar with the wildflower blooms in the spring in the desert, but this is off the charts, better than anything we've ever seen.
As far as the eye can see, white, yellow, and purple wildflowers cover the fields. Park rangers say it's the best bloom they've seen in years. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Good night.